Governor Elena Vasquez stood at the window of the colony administration building and watched the sunset paint the wheat fields gold. New Harvest was beautiful in the evening light. The twin moons were rising over the eastern mountains, and somewhere in the distance, children were laughing as they finished their chores. 30 years ago, this world had been nothing but rock and thin atmosphere. Now 12,000 people called it home. They had built farms and schools and hospitals. They had planted forests and dug wells. They had turned a dead world into something alive. Elena had been born here. Her parents were among the first settlers, brave souls who had traveled 9 months from Earth to build something new. At the edge of explored space, she had grown up watching her mother plant the first apple orchards, and her father design the irrigation systems that now fed the entire colony. New Harvest was not important by galactic standards. It produced food and nothing else. There were no rare minerals here, no strategic value, no reason for any of the great powers to care about one small human farming colony. In the middle of nowhere, that was supposed to keep them safe. Elena turned away from the window when her assistant rushed into the office. Young Thomas Chen was pale, and his hands were shaking as he held out a data pad. "Governor, you need to see this." Long-range sensors detected ships entering the system. 15 of them. Elena took the data pad and studied the readings. Her heart sank as she recognized the energy signatures. HFY warships, a full battle group. The HFY Dominion was one of the largest empires in the galaxy. They were a reptilian species known for their aggression and their appetite for expansion. More importantly, they were known for taking slaves. The HFY considered manual labor beneath them, so they conquered weaker species and forced them to work. Humans were particularly prized as slaves because they could survive in almost any environment and work for long hours without rest. Earth had protested through diplomatic channels many times, but the HFY had powerful friends and humanity had none. "How long until they reach orbit?" Elena asked. 6 hours, maybe less. 6 hours. Elena walked to her desk and sat down heavily. New Harvest had no weapons capable of fighting warships. They had no military at all, just a small security force trained to handle wildlife and the occasional dispute between neighbors. They were farmers, not soldiers. "Get me a connection to Earth," she said. "Priority channel. Emergency protocols." Thomas nodded and ran out. Elena knew it was pointless, but she had to try. Earth was 9 months away at standard faster-than-light speeds. Even if they sent every ship in the fleet immediately, help would arrive long after whatever was about to happen had ended. The connection took 20 minutes to establish. The face that appeared on her screen belonged to Admiral Patricia Morrison, commander of Earth's Colonial Protection Division. The Admiral looked tired. She always looked tired these days. "Governor Vasquez, I've already seen the sensor data from your system. I'm sorry, Admiral. There must be something you can do. 12,000 people live here. Families, children." Admiral Morrison's expression was pained. "I've already dispatched a diplomatic protest to the HFY embassy. I've contacted every ally we have asking for intervention. But Elena, you know the reality. We have nothing close enough to help, and no one in the galaxy cares enough about one human colony to risk war with the Dominion." Elena felt tears forming in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "So that's it. We just accept whatever they're going to do to us. I'm not telling you to surrender. I'm telling you the truth about our situation. Humanity is young and weak compared to the powers that have been ruling this galaxy for thousands of years. We don't have the ships or the weapons to protect every colony. We never have." After the call ended, Elena sat alone in the darkness for a long time. Then she stood up, straightened her clothes, and went to address her people. The message from the HFY came for hours later. Commander Thresh Vakal appeared on every screen in the colony. He was tall even for a HFY, with dark green scales and yellow eyes that held nothing but contempt. "Humans of this world," he said in accented but clear English. "I am Commander Thresh Vakal of the HFY Dominion. Your colony now belongs to us. You have 48 hours to gather in the central square for processing and transport. Anyone who resists will be killed. Anyone who hides will be found and killed. Your government may send whatever distress calls it wishes. No one will come. No one cares about 12,000 farmers on a worthless rock. the transmission ended. In the silence that followed, Elena heard the sound of people crying. She called a town meeting in the main hall. Nearly everyone came, packing the building beyond capacity. People stood in the aisles and crowded around the windows. Fear was written on every face, but Elena also saw something else. She saw determination. "You all heard the message," Elena said. "I won't lie to you about our situation. Earth cannot reach us in time. Our neighbors have declined to help. The Vrekothi are right that we have no way to fight 15 warships." The crowd murmured anxiously. "But I did not say we would surrender." An old farmer named Jorge stood up. He had been one of the original settlers, a friend of Elena's father. "What choice do we have, Governor? We can't fight them, no, we can't. But we can make ourselves difficult to take. We know this land. We build it. Every cave, every tunnel, every building. If they want us, they'll have to come down here and find us one by one." A young woman near the front spoke up. "They'll just bomb us from orbit. They want slaves, not corpses. Slaves have value. The dead are worthless. They won't destroy what they came to take." The discussion continued for hours. Some people wanted to surrender immediately and hope for mercy. Others wanted to fight to the death. Most fell somewhere in between, willing to resist but afraid of what resistance might cost. In the end, they voted to resist. Not everyone agreed, and Elena made it clear that anyone who wanted to surrender would not be stopped. But New Harvest would not simply hand itself over to slavers. Over the next 36 hours, the colony transformed. Farmers who had never held anything more dangerous than a harvesting tool learned to make weapons. From farm equipment, engineers rigged buildings with traps and explosives. Families packed supplies and prepared to flee into the cave systems in the eastern mountains. Elena watched her people work and felt proud of them. They were scared, but they were not giving up. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. Meanwhile, the Vrekothi fleet settled into orbit and waited. Commander Threshvakal sent mocking messages every few hours, counting down the time remaining. He seemed amused by the preparations happening below. Occasionally, his ships would fly low over populated areas, close enough to shake buildings with their engines, a reminder of power. With 2 hours left before the deadline, Elena climbed to the roof of the administration building and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity was going about its business. People on Earth were waking up to morning coffee. People on Mars were building new cities. People on 100 other colonies were living their lives, unaware that 12,000 of their fellow humans were about to become property. "I don't know if anyone is listening," Elena said quietly. "I don't know if it matters. But if anyone can hear this, we need help. We're not soldiers. We're just farmers trying to live our lives. We don't deserve what's about to happen to us." There was no answer. There never would be. Elena had accepted that. But deep in uncharted space, far from any mapped star system, something ancient and massive stirred. Sensors that had been scanning the void for years detected a faint signal, a distress call, encoded with human emergency protocols. In the darkness between galaxies, lights began to glow. Engines that had never been pushed to their limits hummed to life. A ship longer than most space stations, built in secret and hidden from every watching eye in the galaxy, turned toward a small colony 9 months away by normal standards. For the crew of that ship, 9 months was about 16 hours. On the bridge, a man in a captain's uniform studied the distress call. His name was James Okonkwo, and he had not seen Earth in 15 years. He had volunteered for this mission knowing he might never go home, knowing that the ship he commanded might never be revealed to the galaxy. But some things mattered more than secrets. Navigation, Captain Okonkwo said quietly. Set a course for Kepler 4 for to be. Maximum speed. The officer at the navigation console looked up with surprise. "Sir, our orders are to remain hidden unless—" "I know our orders. I'm giving you new ones. There are 12,000 civilians about to be taken as slaves. We can reach them in time. So we will." The bridge was silent for a moment. Then, one by one, every officer nodded. "Course set, Captain. We'll arrive in 16 hours. Captain Okonkwo leaned back in his chair and watched the stars begin to blur. As the ship accelerated beyond anything the galaxy believed possible. "Let's go introduce ourselves," he said. 2 hours before arrival, James made one final announcement to the entire crew. This is 2 hours before arrival. James made one final announcement to the entire crew. This is Prometheus dropped out of faster-than-light travel, less than 50 kilometers behind the Vrekathi flagship. By every law of physics that the galaxy understood, this should have been impossible. Standard FTL exits required thousands of kilometers of safety margin. Arriving this close to another ship should have caused both vessels to tear apart. From gravitational distortions, the Prometheus did not care about what should have been impossible. Captain Okonkwo sat perfectly still in his command chair as the view screen flickered and showed him the enemy fleet. 15 Vrekathi warships hung in the darkness above New Harvest, their running lights blinking peacefully. They had no idea what had just appeared behind them. All weapons systems ready, Captain. Lieutenant Chen reported from the tactical station. Targets locked. Communications, open a channel. All frequencies. I want everyone to hear this. The communications officer worked his console for a moment. Channel open, sir. James stood up and straightened his uniform. He took a deep breath and spoke clearly into the silence. This is Captain James Okonkwo of the Earth vessel Prometheus. You have attacked human civilians. You have threatened to enslave our people. This ends now. You will withdraw from this system immediately or you will be destroyed. There will be no negotiation. There will be no second warning. On the bridge of the Vrekathi flagship, Commander Threshvakal stared at his view screen in complete disbelief. The ship behind him was enormous. It dwarfed his own vessel the way a mountain dwarfs a hill. Its hull was covered in weapons systems that his tactical officers could not identify. Angular protrusions that glowed with barely contained energy. Where did that come from? Threshvakal demanded. His voice was higher than usual. How did it get so close? His sensor officer was frantically checking his equipment. Commander, I don't understand. There was no warning. No approach detected. It simply appeared. That's impossible. Yes, Commander. It is impossible. And yet it is there. Threshvakal's mind raced through possibilities. This had to be a trick. Humans did not have ships like this. Every intelligence report confirmed that Earth's military was insignificant. This must be some kind of hologram, a desperate bluff to buy time. Scan that ship, he ordered. Full sensor sweep. I want to know if it's real. The scan took only seconds. The results made Threshvakal's blood run cold. Commander, the ship is real. Mass approximately 18 million tons. Power output exceeds anything in our records. Weapons systems of unknown configuration. Shields. Commander, I cannot measure their shields. Our sensors are not capable of reading energy levels that high. Threshvakal felt fear for the first time in decades. But he had not risen to command by showing weakness. If this ship was real, then it had to be a prototype. One ship, no matter how large, could not stand against 15 warships. All vessels, target the intruder. Fire everything. The Vrekathi fleet responded with trained precision. 15 ships turned their weapons toward the Prometheus and opened fire. Plasma bolts and missile swarms and energy beams converged on the human vessel from every direction. The Prometheus did not try to evade. It did not need to. On the bridge, Captain Okonkwo watched calmly as the Vrekathi weapons splashed harmlessly against his shields. The ship barely registered the attack. A mild tremor ran through the deck plates, nothing more. Shield status? He asked. Holding at 98%, Captain, Commander Webb reported. Their weapons are having no significant effect. Return fire. Disable the outer ships first. I want the flagship last. Lieutenant Chen's hands moved across his console with practiced speed. The Prometheus began to fire. The weapons that Earth's scientists had developed in secret were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They did not simply damage enemy ships. They unmade them. The first cruiser to die simply stopped existing. One moment it was there, firing desperately at the Prometheus. The next moment there was nothing but expanding gas and debris. The weapon had bypassed the ship's shields entirely and disrupted the molecular bonds of its hull. The second cruiser tried to flee. The Prometheus tracked it with contemptuous ease and fired a different weapon. This one did not destroy the ship. Instead, it caused the cruiser's reactor to implode safely, leaving the vessel intact but completely without power. 300 Vrakathi crew members found themselves drifting in a dead ship, alive but helpless. Ship after ship fell. Some were destroyed instantly. Others were disabled with surgical precision. Their weapons and engines destroyed while their life support systems remained intact. The Prometheus chose its targets with cold efficiency, killing when necessary and showing mercy when possible. On New Harvest, the colonists watched in stunned silence. They had been preparing for death or slavery. Instead, they saw something that should not have existed tearing apart an enemy fleet like paper. Governor Elena Vasquez stood in the doorway of the shelter where her people had gathered. Tears were running down her face, but she was smiling. She was smiling so wide that her cheeks hurt. "Someone came," she whispered. Someone actually came. The battle lasted 90 seconds. When it ended, 12 Vrakathi warships had been destroyed or disabled. The remaining 3, including the flagship, had tried to run. The Prometheus had caught them in seconds and crippled their faster-than-light drives with weapons that seemed to reach across space itself. Commander Threshvakal found himself sitting in a dead ship. His bridge was dark except for emergency lighting. His weapons were gone. His engines were gone. His communications were gone. Everything that made his flagship a threat had been stripped away in moments. A console near him flickered to life. The face of a human male appeared on the screen. He was middle-aged, with dark skin and gray at his temples. His expression was calm, almost serene, as if he had just finished a mild workout rather than destroyed most of a battle fleet. "Commander Threshvakal," the human said. "My name is Captain James Okonkwo. I believe I mentioned there would be no negotiation. I was not joking." Threshvakal found his voice with difficulty. How is this possible? Our intelligence said humans had no such capabilities. Your intelligence was wrong. Or rather, it saw exactly what we wanted it to see. Earth has been preparing for this moment for a very long time. We hoped it would never come. We built ships like the Prometheus as insurance against threats like you. The secret is out now, so there's no point in hiding anymore. What do you want? Captain Okonkwo leaned forward slightly. "I want you to deliver a message. You are going to return to the Vrakathi Dominion with your surviving crews. You are going to tell your leaders exactly what happened here. Every detail, every recording your sensors managed to capture, everything. And the message is simple. Earth does not want war. We have never attacked anyone. We have never threatened anyone. But we protect our own. Every human colony, no matter how small or how far away, is under our protection. If anyone attacks our people, we will respond. Not proportionally. Absolutely." Threshvakal's tactical mind was still working despite his shock. Why not simply destroy us? Why let us live to warn our government? The human captain smiled slightly. It was not a warm expression. "Dead witnesses don't deliver messages, Commander. I want the Dominion to know what we can do. I want every power in the galaxy to know. Consider yourself a messenger. And if the Dominion decides to retaliate, to send a real fleet, then I hope they bring enough ships to make it interesting. The Prometheus has 6 sisters, Commander, and they're all just as capable as this one." Threshvakal felt the last of his confidence drain away. 7 ships like this. 7 vessels that could each destroy a battle fleet in seconds. Earth had been hiding this capability for decades, playing weak while building weapons that could challenge the greatest powers in the galaxy. "Your repairs will take approximately 3 days with your onboard resources," Captain Okonkwo continued. "I suggest you use that time to prepare your report. I'm sure your superiors will have many questions." The screen went dark. Threshvakal sat in the silence of his ruined bridge and tried to understand what had just happened to the galaxy. On New Harvest, shuttles began descending from the Prometheus. They carried medical supplies, engineers, and soldiers in the uniform of Earth's military. Real soldiers with real weapons, coming to help. Governor Vasquez met the first shuttle personally. A young officer stepped out and saluted her crisply. "Lieutenant Maria Santos, ma'am. We're here to assist with recovery operations. Captain Okonkwo sends his regards and asks if there are any urgent needs." Elena opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. She tried again and managed only a choked sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. Lieutenant Santos smiled gently. "It's all right, ma'am. You're safe now." "How?" Elena finally managed. "How are you here? Earth is 9 months away. We weren't coming from Earth, ma'am. We've been out in the deep for a long time, waiting for something like this. I guess you could say we're your guardian angels." More shuttles landed. More supplies arrived. Medics began treating the colonists who had been injured during the initial bombardment. Engineers started working on damaged infrastructure. Within hours, New Harvest looked less like a war zone and more like. The news traveled faster than light itself. Within days, every major power in the galaxy knew what had happened at New Harvest. Sensor recordings from the surviving Vrekathi ships spread through diplomatic channels and intelligence networks. Military analysts watched the footage again and again, unable to believe what they were seeing. A human warship had appeared from nowhere. It had absorbed the combined firepower of 15 warships without damage. Then it had destroyed or disabled an entire battle fleet in 90 seconds. 90 seconds. Wars between major powers lasted years. Battles between fleets could take days. This human ship had ended the fight before most of the Vrekathi crew even understood what was happening. The galaxy had thought humans were weak. The galaxy had been wrong. On Earth, the reaction was complicated. News of the Prometheus and Project Prometheus broke within hours of the battle. People celebrated the rescue of New Harvest, but many were angry about the secrecy. 30 years of hidden military development. 7 massive warships that the public had never known about. Trillions of credits spent without any democratic oversight. The United Nations called emergency sessions. Politicians demanded explanations. Some called for Captain Okonkwo to be arrested for violating his orders. Others called him a hero who had saved 12,000 lives. The debate filled every news channel and social media platform on Earth. Captain Okonkwo himself stayed with the Prometheus, orbiting New Harvest while his crew helped the colonists rebuild. He knew that eventually he would have to return to Earth and face whatever consequences awaited. But for now, there was work to do. The Vrekathi survivors remained in the system as well, repairing their ships slowly with whatever resources they had. True to his word, Captain Okonkwo did not interfere with them. He had promised Commander Threshvakal safe passage to deliver his message, and he intended to keep that promise. 3 days after the battle, Threshvakal's flagship was finally spaceworthy enough to travel. Before he left, the Vrekathi commander requested one final conversation with Captain Okonkwo. The two men faced each other on view screens, enemies who had reached a strange understanding. "I have prepared my report," Threshvakal said. "My government will know everything that happened here. Every detail. Good. That's what I wanted. They will be angry. The Dominion has never been challenged like this. Some will call for revenge, for a full-scale assault on human space." Captain Okonkwo nodded calmly. "They might, but I think your wiser leaders will understand the situation. The Prometheus is just one ship. We have 6 more like it, and more under construction. Any fleet you send against us will be destroyed. Is that a threat?" "It's a fact. I don't make threats, Commander. I state realities. The reality is that Earth can now defend itself against any power in the galaxy. We could probably conquer half the galaxy if we wanted to, but we don't want to. We never wanted power. We just wanted to be left alone." Threshvakal was silent for a moment. "Why? You have weapons that could make you rulers of everything. Why not use them? Because that would make us no different from you." Okonkwo's voice was quiet but firm. "The Dominion conquers because it can. It takes slaves because it can. Power without purpose creates nothing but suffering. Earth built these weapons to protect our people, not to dominate others. A strange philosophy for a species that just demonstrated the ability to destroy fleets at will. Perhaps, but it's who we are. Go home, Commander. Deliver your message. Tell your leaders that Earth wants peace, real peace, between equals. If the Dominion is willing to treat humans as partners rather than prey, we can find a way forward. But if you come for our people again, we will stop you. Every time." Threshvakal studied the human captain for a long moment. Then he inclined his head slightly, the closest a Vrekathi ever came to a bow. "You are unlike any enemy I have ever faced. I do not understand your species, but I think perhaps I am beginning to respect you." The Vrekathi ships departed an hour later. Captain Okonkwo watched them go and hoped that his message would be heard. The following weeks brought a flood of visitors to Earth. Diplomatic ships from dozens of species requested permission to enter human space. Some came with threats and demands. Others came with questions and proposals. A few came simply to see for themselves whether the stories were true. Earth's government assembled a team to handle the sudden attention. Admiral Patricia Morrison, who had once told Governor Vasquez that no help was coming, now found herself coordinating humanity's new position on the galactic stage. "It's chaos," she told Captain Okonkwo during a secure video call. "Everyone wants to know how powerful we really are. The Vrekothi are demanding reparations for their destroyed ships. The Collective Assembly is proposing sanctions for our secret militarization. And about 40 smaller species have sent requests for protection treaties." Protection treaties? They want what New Harvest got. They've spent centuries living in fear of the major powers. And now they see that Earth can actually stand up to them. They want to be under our umbrella. Captain Okonkwo considered this carefully. That could be dangerous. If we start guaranteeing the safety of other species, we're committing to wars we might not want to fight. I know. But think about what it means if we refuse. We have this incredible power, and we only use it for ourselves. That doesn't seem right either. The captain was quiet for a moment. No, it doesn't. What's Earth Command's position? Still being debated. The politicians can't agree on anything. Some want to hide again, pretend the Prometheus was our only ship, hope everyone forgets. Others want to become a galactic superpower, project force everywhere, reshape the political order. And what do you think? Admiral Morrison smiled tiredly. "I think we should be what we've always claimed to be. Protectors, not conquerors. If smaller species want our help, we should give it. But we should make clear that we won't fight their battles for them. We'll defend against aggression, nothing more." The conversation stayed with Captain Okonkwo long after it ended. He had spent 15 years preparing for war, but he had never really thought about what would come after. What did it mean to be powerful in a galaxy full of fear and greed? A month after the battle, Captain Okonkwo finally returned to Earth. The Prometheus entered orbit above the planet where it had been secretly built, finally visible to the billions of people who called that world home. Okonkwo was not arrested. The public outcry in his favor made that politically impossible. Instead, he was summoned to testify before the United Nations Security Council, where he answered questions for 3 days straight. He did not apologize for his decision. He explained it clearly and calmly, with the same composure he had shown when facing the Vrekothi fleet. Yes, he had violated his orders. Yes, he had revealed a secret that had been kept for 30 years. But 12,000 lives had been at stake, and he had the power to save them. What else could he have done? The council debated for 2 weeks. In the end, they reached a compromise. Captain Okonkwo was officially reprimanded for violating orders, a note that would remain permanently in his service record. He was also promoted to admiral and given command of the entire Prometheus fleet. The message was clear. Earth did not punish people for protecting humanity. News of the decision spread quickly. On New Harvest, the colonists held a celebration. Governor Elena Vasquez raised a glass to the man who had saved them and was now responsible for defending all of humanity. "To Admiral Okonkwo," she said, "may he never have to fight another battle. But if he does, may he always win." The Prometheus itself remained in Earth orbit for several weeks, undergoing maintenance and resupply. Thousands of people came to see it, gathering in observation platforms and private spacecraft to witness the ship. That had changed everything. Among them was a young girl named Sarah Chen, the daughter of a colonist on New Harvest. Her family had been among those preparing to hide in the mountains when the Prometheus arrived. She had been 9 years old, crying in the darkness, certain she would never see another birthday. Now she stood at a viewing window on one of Earth's orbital stations, looking at the ship that had saved her life. It was beautiful in a strange, frightening way. All angles and power, designed not to impress but to destroy. "Mama," she said quietly, "I want to work on a ship like that someday." Her mother smiled and put an arm around her. "Maybe you will, sweetheart. Maybe you will." Far away, in the capital of the Vrekothi Dominion, the High Council was meeting in emergency session. Commander Threshvakal had delivered his report. and the recording of the battle played on screens throughout the chamber. Some council members demanded immediate retaliation. The Dominion's honor had been insulted. Their ships had been destroyed. This could not stand. Others urged caution. They had seen what one human ship could do. The humans claimed to have 7 of them. Was revenge worth the potential destruction of the Dominion itself? The eldest council member of Rekathi, named Sethrak, who had served for nearly 200 years, watched the debate with ancient, tired eyes. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had witnessed wars that consumed entire star systems. He understood power better than anyone else in the room. 6 months had passed since the Battle of New Harvest. The galaxy was still adjusting to the new reality. Earth had signed mutual defense treaties with 17 smaller species, forming what the media was calling the Terran Shield Alliance. Under the terms of these treaties, Earth would defend member worlds against unprovoked aggression. In exchange, the member species agreed to peaceful relations with humanity and each other. For species that had lived in fear for centuries, it was like waking up from a nightmare. The Kaelari, who had been paying tribute to the Vrekathi for 300 years, stopped their payments overnight. The Dominion made no move to punish them. They did not dare. The Galactic Forum, the closest thing the galaxy had to an interstellar government, had formally recognized Earth as a major power. This came with responsibilities as well as privileges. Earth now had a permanent seat on the Security Council and a voice in galactic affairs. That would have been unthinkable a year ago. Admiral James Okonkwo spent most of his time on Earth now, coordinating the defense of humanity's growing sphere of influence. The Prometheus and her sister ships patrolled human space in regular rotations, visible reminders of the power that protected them. He missed the simplicity of the old days, hiding in the void, training his crew, waiting for a call that might never come. Now he attended meetings and reviewed reports and shook hands with diplomats. It was necessary work, but it did not feel like him. On a cool morning in April, he received word that a Vrekathi diplomatic ship had arrived in Earth orbit. It carried a single passenger, Ambassador Kethavos, sent by the High Council to negotiate the first formal agreement between the Dominion and humanity. Okonkwo was asked to attend the first meeting as a military advisor. He put on his dress uniform and took a shuttle to the diplomatic station that had been hastily constructed in orbit. The Vrekathi ambassador was younger than he had expected. Her scales were a lighter green than Commander Threshvakal's had been, and her eyes held curiosity rather than contempt. She stood as Okonkwo entered the conference room and inclined her head respectfully. "Admiral Okonkwo, I have heard much about you. It is an honor to meet the hero of New Harvest. I'm not sure hero is the right word, Ambassador. I did what needed to be done, perhaps, but from your perspective, you violated orders and risked your career to save people you had never met. That is remarkable by any standard." They sat down across from each other, separated by a table that held nothing but a simple vase of flowers. The human delegation included diplomats and military officers. The Vrekathi had come alone. "I must be honest with you," Kethavos said. "Many in the Dominion still want revenge for what happened. The destruction of our fleet was a humiliation that some find intolerable. And what do you want, Ambassador?" She considered the question carefully. "I want what my government has instructed me to pursue, a lasting peace between our peoples. But more than that, I want to understand, how did humanity come to possess such power? And why do you not use it as others would?" Okonkwo leaned back in his chair. "That's a long story. I have time." He thought for a moment, choosing his words. "When humans first discovered that we were not alone in the universe, we were terrified. Every species we encountered was older than us, more advanced, more powerful. We saw empires that had conquered dozens of worlds. We saw civilizations that treated weaker species like cattle." He paused, remembering those early years. The panic, the desperate planning, the decision to hide humanity's true capabilities while building something that could actually protect them. We realized that the galaxy operated on a simple principle: the strong prey on the weak. If we wanted to survive, we had two choices. We could become prey, hoping that someone stronger would protect us, or we could become strong enough to protect ourselves. You chose the second path. We did. Project Prometheus took 30 years, and the combined resources of our entire civilization. We developed technologies that galactic science said were impossible. We built ships in hidden facilities beyond the reach of any sensor. And we kept it secret, because a predator that knows you have teeth is more dangerous than one that thinks you're defenseless. Ketha Voss was quiet for a moment. Your strategy worked. The Dominion thought you were weak. We sent a fleet to capture a small colony, confident that no one would stop us. And now you know the truth. Yes, now we know. She met his eyes directly. But what I still do not understand is why you did not press your advantage. After New Harvest, you could have attacked us. Your ships could have reached the heart of the Dominion in days. You could have freed every human slave, destroyed our military, perhaps even conquered our worlds. Instead, you let Commander Threshvakal go. You delivered a message instead of delivering death. Okonkwo nodded slowly. That's the part most species don't understand about us. We built the Prometheus fleet to protect ourselves, not to dominate others. When we had the choice between conquest and peace, we chose peace. Why? Because we remember what it feels like to be weak. We remember the fear of those first years, when we looked at the stars and saw only threats. We will not become the monsters that we feared. The ambassador studied him for a long time. Then she did something that surprised everyone in the room. She smiled. You are not like other powerful species, she said. The old empires see weakness in mercy. They believe that strength must be demonstrated through cruelty. But you show strength through restraint. You are dangerous because you could destroy us, and you choose not to. Is that a problem? On the contrary, it is exactly what the galaxy needs. She reached across the table and offered her hand in the human gesture of friendship. I believe we can build something new together, Admiral. Not an alliance of fear, but a partnership of respect. Okonkwo took her hand and shook it carefully. I hope you're right, Ambassador. I really do. The negotiations continued for several weeks. They were difficult at times, with centuries of hostility to overcome. But slowly, an agreement took shape. The Dominion would recognize human sovereignty over all current and future colonies. They would release all human slaves within their territory. They would cease all aggressive actions against species under Earth's protection. In exchange, Earth would share certain technologies with the Dominion, helping them develop beyond their reliance on slave labor. Earth would not seek revenge for past crimes, and both powers would work together to establish new norms for galactic relations, based on mutual respect rather than domination. It was not a perfect agreement. Many humans felt that the Dominion was getting off too easily. Many Vrakathi felt that they were surrendering their pride. But it was a beginning. On the day the treaty was signed, Admiral Okonkwo traveled to New Harvest. He had not been back since the battle, and he wanted to see what had become of the colony he had saved. The changes were remarkable. The population had tripled as new settlers arrived, drawn by the story of the colony that had stood against an empire. New buildings rose where the Vrakathi bombardment had left scars. Fields that had burned were green again. Governor Elena Vasquez met him at the landing pad. Her hair had more gray in it than he remembered, but her smile was the same. Welcome back, Admiral. Or should I call you Admiral now that you're famous? James is fine. I've never been comfortable with titles. She led him through the colony, showing him everything they had rebuilt. The school that had been damaged was now twice its original size. The hospital had received equipment from Earth that made it one of the best in the outer colonies. The memorial to those who had died in the initial bombardment stood in the central square, a simple stone pillar inscribed with names. We added something new, Elena said, pointing to an inscription at the base of the pillar. I hope you don't mind. Okonkwo leaned closer to read the words carved into the stone. They came to simple words, but they carried the weight of everything that had happened. The fear and the hope, the sacrifice and the salvation, the moment when 12,000 people looked up at the sky and saw impossible rescue. Descending through the darkness. It's perfect, he said quietly. They walked together to the edge of the colony, where the wheat fields stretched toward the mountains. The twin moons were rising, just as they had been on the night when the Vrakathi arrived. But the fear was gone now. The people of New Harvest looked at the sky and saw possibility, not threat. Do you think it will last? Elena asked. The peace, I mean. Do you think we've really changed anything? Okonkwo considered the question carefully. I don't know. The galaxy is a big place, and there are forces out there that won't be happy about what we've done. We'll face challenges we can't even imagine yet. He turned to look at her. But I believe that what happened here mattered. Not just the battle, but everything that came after. We showed the galaxy that power doesn't have to mean cruelty. That the strong can choose to protect instead of prey. Is that enough? It's a start. He smiled slightly. When I was hiding out in the void, waiting for a call that might never come, I used to wonder what we were really building. Were we just creating another weapon? Another way for humans to dominate others? He looked up at the stars. Now I know the answer. We weren't building weapons. We were building a promise that no human colony would ever